Hey, I'm back today because I finished two books already. It is December 5th today, and I have finished two really short little books, and I have another one. So last month I read Moxie, and that kind of got me thinking about different pieces of feminist literature, and I haven't actually read that much. So I just kind of went on a deep dive as I do with many books. I think most people do that, right? When like if you're really into reading, you kind of like Google things as you're reading. And I started with this little guy. It's super short. I think it's 52 pages, something like that. And it's We Should All Be Feminists. You can't really see that with the book, but this is based on a TED talk that she did. I don't know if it's an exact transcript or if it's just based on it. And she basically talks about the beginning of her kind of realizing what feminism is and her process of it. I think that it's super good, super cute. This would be a really cute gift for, not cute, but you know what I mean. Like it would be a nice gift to give a young person, an old person, a woman in your life, or even maybe a man. She talks not a lot. She talks about the difference between feminism and human rights, and that it is definitely a gender issue. A lot of people want to be like, well, why make it about females instead of just making it about everybody being equal? And that is kind of what feminism is, but also that it is a gender issue. But it's done in a really nice way, and I think that a lot of people would really like this, and a lot of people have probably already read this. My second book that I just finished is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is a novel. It is a dystopian novel, which I actually don't love reading dystopian, but this is the first one that I've read that I really felt like was very unique. It's very atmospheric. They're going to release a movie, I feel like it's in February 2018. Natalie Portman is going to be in it, so I'm definitely going to see it because I always love what she does. And this is just like a basic, I don't want to say too much, but there's a group of people that have to go into an expedition. They go on an expedition over into this area X, and they're trying to discover what's over there. And it's for women, and I'm super, super excited to see this made into a movie just because this is one that like not a lot happens, but I loved this way more than I thought I was going to. This is part of a trilogy. I'm not sure if I said that already. It is part of a trilogy, and it's kind of interesting because they were all released in the same year. They were all released in 2014. The next one is Authority, and I've already requested that from the library, and I'm looking forward to reading that. So, woo! Hey guys, I just finished another book. Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit, I believe is how you say it. It's a tiny book. I'm kind of on a kick, as you can tell, and I have more coming. I've just been kind of dipping my toe into feminist literature, and this one, when I went to the library to get We Are Feminists, or We Should All Be Feminists, I found this one and I grabbed it. I've heard of this. Of course, this is kind of, people credit her with the term mansplaining, and so I kind of thought it was going to be like that. I thought the beginning of this book was great. As you can tell, all my notes are from the first like third. It kind of fizzled out for me at the end. It's a bunch of different essays that she wrote. The first one, Men Explain Things to Me, is pretty self-explanatory, but it's nothing new. I think if you're into feminist literature or you read anything about feminism, it's not anything super, super new. It talks about like masculinity and like our definitions of masculinity being part of our problem. And what really made me think a lot is just talking about like in our society, a lot of attacks on women, rapes, kidnappings, that kind of stuff, assaults, all these different things we're seeing in the media right now. It's all seen as just like these individual crimes instead of it being like a civil rights issue, because obviously if someone attacked someone who was homosexual, who's black, you see that more as a hate crime. But when you're attacking women, that's not really seen as like a civil rights issue. It's just seen as these individual issues. And I do think that we should be discussing that a little bit more. I also read that Time article about the Person of the Year, the whistleblowers this year. I'll leave a link to that now. When this goes up, obviously it'll be weeks later, but it's definitely it's a long read, but it's definitely worth it, and it kind of goes along with this. And this is just something that's kind of that I'm really thinking a lot about, as is obviously lots of people in our world, but it's definitely worth thinking about and not just blowing off. Even if you're a woman and you feel like, I've never felt like that, I've never been, you know, attacked, or I don't think it's as big of an issue as other people, or women coming forward now are dumb or should have come forward before. Whatever you think about it, it is worth evaluating when you feel like it. So that's all. Yeah, worth reading. Also, because it's so short, it's so nice to have short books on serious topics, because you can kind of get through it a little faster. So on to the next. Oh, my hair's a little bit crazy. I just got out of the shower a little while ago, and I've kind of been in, you know, when you get in those moods where you're like in a cleaning tizzy and you just want to get rid of everything, like that sweatshirt. So I've been doing that, but I'm gonna run to the library. We're gonna go get some coffee. We're gonna do some errands, and I just finished The Subtle Art of Not Giving AF. I wanted to read this just because I kept seeing it everywhere, and it's like one of those things for me where I just wanted to read it because everybody else was. I really actually really enjoyed this. I saw a lot of reviews that said that it was kind of like a reiteration of every other self-help book. So maybe if you've read a lot of self-improvement books and things like that, maybe this would not be helpful to you. But I think this is really good for probably like a younger person, because the language is quite profane, I guess, obviously. But generally speaking, I really liked it. My favorite lesson in it is one that I already know, but it's nice to read things and kind of have these like affirmations to. It may not be your fault. A lot of things in your life are not going to be your fault. You're going to be a product of all of these different situations, and it's just your responsibility to deal with it properly. And I think that that's really helpful in really small scenarios on a day-to-day basis where you have annoying things and your boss is annoying you and maybe customers are annoying you or whatever you're dealing with. You kind of have to just, instead of letting that drown you, you have to kind of deal with that. But also in really big life situations too, when really tragic things happen, you kind of have to be responsible for how you take what happened and move on or do something with. So I would say I really liked it. Obviously, if you don't like language, like inappropriate language, you're not going to want to read this. When I was first reading it, like the first chapter, I didn't think I was going to like it because he comes off like quite a D-bag because of the way he speaks and stuff. Throughout the book, you kind of get used to that language, and I at least started to really appreciate the frankness of it. So I liked it. I'm going to return it now to the library, and I have 2 more books waiting for me. My favorite thing. Hey, it has been a little while since I have finished a book. I kind of have been reading less lately, busy holidays and all of that. I'm wearing my Grinch t-shirt or sweatshirt from Teas and Thank You. I'm officially on holiday break now, so I'm super excited. I finished one book today, and I finished one book 2 days ago, but I got super sick 2 days ago, so I'm going to film both today. The one I finished today is Dear Ijoele, I think is how you say it, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions. And it's so good. I read her We Should All Be Feminists earlier this month, and this is another just like little short guy, 63 pages or so, and it's literally just a letter. One of her friends asked her how to raise a feminist daughter, and she wrote this. Obviously she wrote it like this is probably edited a little differently, but it's so good. I think obviously I've been on kind of the same theme this month for a lot of my novels that I've been picking up, but these are just so easy to digest, and I feel like I'm actually probably going to purchase this one because I think this would be worth like reading and rereading every once in a while, because there's such great points about people like talking about how, you know, gender bias doesn't exist and just sexism doesn't exist and all of this stuff. And she just makes the best points in just the most educated, simple way, not in a way that's like, I hate men. And she, you know, she just talks about all different stuff. It's obviously not just feminist stuff, but it's just issues with raising children. And she makes the comment about it being easy to advise how people should parent when you're not actually a parent and you're like, this is what you should do. So the other one I finished 2 days ago is Hunger by Roxane Gay. This is the first one I've read of hers. I will be reading Bad Feminist by her as well because that one's supposed to be excellent as well. This one is just about her body and her life with her body. So she had a trauma in her young life. It really shows how we as humans can mess each other up in the worst ways. I will say the trauma in here is not super graphic, so if that's something that's very triggering to you, I would say this is readable and not graphic at all. But because of what happens with her and the way that she dealt with it or didn't deal with it, she kind of went on a whole path of trying to feed her body to make herself more and more invisible. She's then talks about how overweight she is. She's very overweight, and she states that. I'm not saying that in judgmental. She talks about how overweight she is, talking about like if she wants weight loss surgery, things like that. I will say, I think this is a super important book. I think that a lot of people could get a lot out of it. I think especially people who judge other people for their body size. I think the biggest and most important thing that you get out of this is like, stop talking about other people's bodies, stop judging them. You cannot comment about someone's body, even if they're super large, super small, whatever, that fits your definition of what is right or wrong. And this is like a really great example of people making comments maybe with better intentions, but also just like people saying crappy, I wanted to use a different word, people saying crappy things to other people because they're overweight. This is super good. I will say it's a little bit repetitive at times. I just kind of wanted it to like move forward, and I wanted more story versus like more commentary. But it was really easy to read. The chapters are quite short. The one thing I will say is I think because I have been on this journey of trying to lose weight, trying to accept myself, all of that stuff, it was a little bit difficult for me to listen to her complain about her body, complain about trying to lose weight, not being successful, and going through that cycle that so many people go through. It was really hard for me not to just be like, oh my God, do something about it. Oh my God, go, like, you don't need to lose weight. You need to like fix yourself. You need to go and get therapy. And I'm sure she has gone to therapists before. She just doesn't mention that in this book. But that was really hard for me. But that is because I am filtering this through my own experiences, which I think everyone will do. But that, I will say, that was one thing where I was just like, oh my gosh, do something. Something else that I felt was really, really good, and probably the point I'm going to end on, is she talks about looking for love and giving our bodies when looking for love. And because I work with teenagers and I work with a lot of teenage girls, that is a subject that's very close to my heart, because I cannot tell you how many conversations I have had with teenagers where I have had to direct them to professionals because they have either been forced to do something, they are being pressured to do something, all of this stuff. And I think, you know, I see a lot of girls who have been abused in the past by people that they've trusted, or just like in relationships and stuff, and then they carry that on and on and on and on and on forever. And that's something that really like hits home for me, and she talks a lot about that. Okay, so that's all for now. Hopefully I'll get at least one more book done this month. Hello. I haven't filmed in like 2 weeks. I don't know how much of this I'm gonna actually add to this video, but I have been so ill. It is the Thursday after Christmas, 25, 26, 29? I think it's the 29th today. I've been on Christmas vacation, which is super nice and convenient to be sick over Christmas vacation, but also like kind of lame. So I finished another book. The book that I finished is going to go along with my December theme, is How to Be a Woman by Caitlin Moran. I saw a lot of kind of like negative reviews almost on it, because a lot of people were like, I think went into this thinking it was going to be like how to be a woman and like talking about whatever. And these are her opinions and her experiences. Some of them are crazy and outlandish, and that's why we're reading about her versus me, who is just like a normal bland person. I will say I read most of this in about a day and a half, and I hit a point where I had maybe like 60 pages left. Concerned Toby's gonna jump up. And I just didn't care about it. So I let it sit for about a week, and then I finished the last 60 pages in one night, and I really, really loved it. So I think for this one, I should have probably spaced it out a bit more, because in the middle it got just kind of like, I was just kind of over it. It's just, you know, different reflections on her life, and I found this stuff most interesting when she was younger, and she's talking about like discovering her body. Oh, here comes Toby. Discovering her body, getting her period. I found that stuff more interesting just because it's relatable-ish. And here's the nub. I don't know if anybody has noticed this, but Toby doesn't have a tail. We don't know why he came to me as a rescue. I could do a whole video on Toby probably, but I feel like that's pretty unique. And it doesn't seem like it was traumatic for him, because he really likes it when you pet his tail. He doesn't, I think he gets confused when I'm talking here, and it's not to him. I'm gonna say I wouldn't recommend this for everybody, but I think if you're like me, who you love to read, or if you like to read memoirs, I think it could be really interesting for some people. I only gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, I think 3 or 4 stars, I can't remember, because it didn't keep me super enthralled, but I do think she's interesting, and I actually think maybe this one would have been interesting to hear on audio. I'm sure she reads her own. So that's all I have to say. Hopefully I will be back for 2 more of these. Hey guys, so it is January 1st. Oh, you can see Toby sitting on the back of my chair. We're having a totally chill day before we go back to work. Toby does not go back to work, but I do. So technically I finished my last book in January, and usually I would keep that as a January book then, but I read the majority of it in December, so I'm just gonna add it because I can. So the last book that I read is Beyond Belief by Jenna Miscavige Hill. This is a story of her growing up in Scientology from the time she was a small child and until she left when she was an adult. I thought it was super interesting. At times it felt like I just wanted to get through it, but I was super into it, and I don't know how better to describe it like that. This is a really interesting story because her uncle is the current leader of Scientology, so she has a slightly different perspective, and I just thought it was really interesting. She does talk about, because the whole time you're reading this, I would imagine most people are going to read this and be like, I don't get it. I don't understand like the appeal of Scientology. I don't really understand like the point of Scientology. I did do a little more like deep dive researchy kind of things. It seems like potentially you go into Scientology believing you're going to do good and help the world, and it kind of currently is more cultish, like trying to just like get people's money and things like that. But this was really well told, and I think the coolest thing is that I kept thinking like, how do all of these celebrities get sucked into this? Like, how do you get sucked in as an adult? It's a really hard thing to understand, I think, probably unless you're actually a part of it. And I think a lot of people get sucked into all sorts of things that you as an outsider are very quick to judge. And she does actually talk about celebrities just a little bit towards the end. She talks about people's interactions and how the celebrity experience is probably quite different. You're probably paying much more money, but it's quite different from like the manual labor she's doing like as a child. Super interesting. I'm definitely going to add Leah Remini's book to my like to be read probably soon. I think that will be really interesting. I know she has a show. I don't have cable, so I only watch TV via like the internet, Netflix, Hulu and stuff like that. So I will probably watch that at some point. I also haven't watched the HBO documentary Going Clear, but I will watch that at some point. So this is how I rounded out my year, technically started my year as well. I have a ton of books that I want to read this month. I have like 5 books out from the library right now. And I'm also going to try to keep reading some like self-help, not fitness, more like wellness books and all of that. So that'll be on my kind of list this month. So thank you so much for watching this. I don't get as many views on this, but I really enjoy doing these videos, so I'm just gonna keep doing them even if nobody watches. And so if you did watch this, I appreciate it. I love to hear people's comments on books that I've read, books that they've read. If they read something fabulous, like, I want to hear about it, even if I don't end up reading it. I love looking at books and seeing what other people are reading. So if you have any recommendations or if you have any comments about any of this stuff, I would love to hear it below. And Toby and I wish you a happy 2018, and we will continue reading and sharing and enjoying this whole platform. So, okay, have a happy day. Bye.